My wife is judging me for something I didn't even know I did. Hey there. So honestly, my problem is pretty superficial, but it still annoys me. Both of us work as nursery nurses. She's in kindergarten and I work with older kids, 6 to 14, after school daycare, but also help out at a kindergarten. Both different buildings, we don't work together. So I got a trainee in our building who has a friend that is a co-worker of my wife. I work occasionally with her together since we are now in the same team. TLDR is my wife had a shift with said friend, that friend had a talk with the trainee and she only seemed to talk about me, that's what the co-worker said at least. Like, how nice/funny I am, that she enjoyed working with me. Working with older kids is not entirely her thing, but it was more fun since we were in the same group. Get along with each other pretty well. That my instructions are spot on and helpful. And so on, nothing NSFW or anything. Personally would have never guessed she viewed me like that, first time I heard about it. After that her friend asked her if she knows that she is working with my wife together. She did, but it seemed she just continued the talk lol. So cutting to the chase. My wife was totally irritated and we talked about it in the evening. I gave her my side, we laughed about it and all seemed well. But she is occasionally judging/bringing it up to me, that's just her personality, she can be very jealous, and I kinda sometimes don't know how to react. I am also unsure about the trainee on how to approach that. If I should mention it to her or something. I mean, I have absolutely no feelings for her. We just got a house, our Bernese Mountain Dog puppy, and my life is perfectly stable. I'm more of an introvert and not a people person, funny looking at my job, right, so I am absolutely clueless. Wouldn't even notice if I somehow flirt tbh. And my way with girls/women is even worse, so to speak. So, am I just reading too much into it/being paranoid? Is it just nonsense to be worked up by that? Comment. Is there something you want me to do about Amy? If not, can we stop talking about her? It's making me uncomfortable because I don't know what you want from me. You can't control your wife's feelings or behaviors, but you can set down boundaries and tell her what is/isn't acceptable in terms of her words and actions towards you. Also, your wife's friend is a stirrer. Do with that what you will. Well, if you married someone who is determined to make you feel bad, you can't change her. I don't know why you'd want to marry someone who doesn't like you and want you to feel good. You need a conversation with your wife about how her behavior is making you feel. Maybe let her read this post and talk to her about how this is making you feel, how you feel you cannot talk to her. If you don't like her baby hour, step up and talk about it together. Obviously only advice for not abusive relationships. It takes bravery, yeah, but you can do that. The fact that your coworker continued to talk even after your wife was brought up shows that it was completely innocent. If she had designs on you, she probably would have been embarrassed or made some comment about too bad he's married. But she didn't. She was just glad to have a coworker/mentor that provides her a safe place at work and makes her job easier. Keep doing what you're doing up and encourage your wife to find healthier ways to handle her jealousy. Someone needs to be honest with her because it's apparently never happened. Honey, I did not, have not, and will not encourage Amy or anyone else in a non-professional or inappropriate way. Beyond that, there is nothing I can do or say that is going to help your feelings because they are your feelings. Any insecurity isn't coming from me, which means I can't do anything about them. Amy isn't a threat to our marriage. I am not interested in anyone but you. Continuing to toss out snarky comments and implying that I've somehow done something wrong when I haven't, however, is toxic behavior and will eventually cause serious problems between us. I don't want that to happen, so maybe it's time to see someone who can help you with it. If she gets mad at you for voicing a completely valid and reasonable concern, then she is extremely toxic and not a fit partner for anyone. I don't understand. The trainee didn't say anything bad. She was talking to her friend about a coworker that helped her and made her feel welcomed. If one is stressed about a job and things go way better than expected, it would seem normal to me to talk a lot about it. It doesn't mean anything emotional or any attraction. I'm willing to bet she could have talked about you in the same way had you been a woman. I know I would have because I've done so with people of both genders. Your wife may be overly insecure, but her issues should not be taken out on you. The fact that she keeps bringing it up is passive-aggressive. Be clear with her. Nothing is happening, and nothing of what her friend said was bad in nature. The trainee stated you are a great co-worker with whom she hopes to get along. Wouldn't your wife agree that you are indeed a good team worker and funny? Tell her that you are aware that she feels threatened, but that she needs to trust you and the oath of fidelity you took by marrying her. If she can't help but bringing it up, she should seek therapy. It's not normal to not be able to think before you speak. Yeah, speaking as someone prone to work crushes, I never want the wife to feel threatened, and personally am very careful how I speak about the person because I am aware people will misinterpret. Ironically, that probably means I am more likely to be misunderstood to be crushing on someone I'm not because I am less careful. In any case, my wonderful husband has never worried about these crushes. And if he can handle me liking other people, surely Op's wife can figure out a way to handle when other people like them. Because whether or not they do, she thinks they do, and her mental health would benefit immensely from working through those doubts. I was prone to jealousy and worked diligently on my own to figure out the root causes. Hint, I was the common denominator. And I am so glad I did. I always appreciated reassurance from my partners, of course. But I took responsibility, and Op's wife would benefit from doing so, as well. Next story 2. My husband asked for a paternity test. It came back positive, but our relationship was never the same. My husband and I have 3 children. Our sons look exactly like him, dark skin and dark eyes and hair, but our daughter doesn't. She looks exactly like my great-grandparents, really pale, blonde, and green-eyed, but apparently he didn't think it was possible that our daughter could look like my great-grandparents, and from the moment he saw her he told me he wanted a paternity test. At first I refused because I felt it was humiliating and because I didn't think it was necessary, because I never cheated on him and I hoped he would trust me, but he didn't, and for the first 2 months of our daughter's life he made my life hell. He didn't want to hold her even if she cried desperately while I was doing something else. He never woke up at night to help me with her. He never helped me with anything, and that hurt me so much because with our boys he was completely different. He helped me all the time with absolutely everything, and he was always there for me after giving birth, but this time he left me alone and it was the worst experience of my life. I have no family here, and his entire family from the moment they saw my daughter turned their backs on me. I don't have any friends here either, so it was just my daughter and me. She is a colicky baby, so it was very difficult for me to do everything alone, and on top of that help with our sons. I decided to do the paternity test because one day his entire family came to our house to celebrate my son's birthday and no one spoke to me, and they didn't want to include my daughter in the photos that my in-laws took of all the grandchildren. So I knew it was stupid to keep waiting for them to come to their senses. Well, the paternity test came back positive and everyone was shocked, and of course they felt guilty for not having believed in me. Everyone apologized, and my husband even cried when he held our daughter in his arms for the first time, and I know that his apologies were genuine and that's why I forgave him, but I don't know if I can forgive his family. They treated me really badly and said horrible things about me just a few days after giving birth, and I can't forget their insults or violence. My husband knows that I don't want to see his family, nor do I want them near any of our children, and he told his family, so these last 3 months it has been just the 5 of us, but it doesn't feel as good as I expected. My husband is constantly apologizing and crying every time he holds our daughter, and I am getting tired of this situation. I want us to be happy as we were before. So how can we move on? My husband suggested that we should start couples therapy. How much can therapy help? Comment. It's not just a dad thing, it's being a decent human FN being. My husband knew my son wasn't his. My son was 5 months old when we met, but anytime I was over there with my kid, he'd help. Hell, even early on in the relationship he'd help me buy diapers and formula. I always say my husband fell in love with my son first. We also moved pretty quickly. About 3 to 5 weeks into meeting he asked me to move in, as I was living with my grandparents and he knew it was a rough situation as my grandpa was going through chemo at the time. We got married after year 2, so we dated a while before actually tying the knot. March will be 19 years together. My son and his now wife were off and on for years. They were on a 2-week break, and month after they got back together she found out she was pregnant. Did not matter, there was 50-50, it was not my son's. My son and our whole family accepted him as family. When paternity test showed my son was not father, not one thing changed, except now the bio dad saw him as well. 15 years later, when the kids come to visit for vacation, we, grandparents and aunt, talk to bio dad about schedules so he spends time with entire family. He knows DNA doesn't make him my grandson, love does. The very foundation that Op's marriage was built upon has been damaged. In the same way that they turned on her and refused to believe her, she now feels like she can no longer trust them and believe they will not do so again. Once trust like that is broken, it may be impossible to repair. I personally would leave. You can forgive and never forget. You can forgive and move on. You can forgive and close the door on that chapter of your life. What was he thinking? Well, if you surveyed Reddit, they would tell you he had very legitimate concerns and had every right to just be sure of paternity, and his wife should have been completely fine at the insult of it, because how was he to know how genetics worked? He was thinking whatever he read on the internet. He was thinking my family is right, even though clearly none of them understand how genetics works. Seems like the usual consensus on Reddit is you have to tell your spouse you did a paternity test. Personally, I would rather not know that a paternity test is done if my partner wanted one. Like, I get being truthful is the key to a healthy partnership. But I know that if my partner accused me of cheating and paternity fraud, I would never see him the same again. It would be better to just get it done for your own peace of mind without the accusation, blame, and turmoil being placed on me. I've had this exact conversation with my husband. While I understand that a man can never be sure in the same way a woman can, I'd like to believe that he knows me, and trusts me, and I've never given him reason to suspect me of anything. We both spend a lot of time on Reddit, and have seen multiple posts on the subject, so we've discussed this several times, and I've told him that I would never deny him a paternity test, but that would also be the end of our relationship. I wouldn't be able to stay married to someone who not only thinks I'm a cheater, but also thinks I'm so morally bankrupt as to try to pin another man's child on him. I'm kinda glad our kids take after him, 'cause I could see my in-laws behaving exactly like ops were.